The Education Crisis in South Africa, 2025. Refusal of applications and lack of access to universities leave thousands in despair. In 2025, South Africa is facing one of its most severe education crises. The once hopeful dreams of thousands of young South Africans to gain higher education are crushed by a rigid and overwhelmed system. The streets outside the country's leading universities have transformed into sites of frustration and protest, as prospective students toy in a desperate attempt to bring attention to the growing crisis. The toy movement, protesting for access. Toying, a form of synchronized public dancing often associated with protests in South Africa, has become the chosen expression of dissent for these young, would-be students. The rhythm of stomping feet and the chanting of slogans echo outside the universities, where the smell of burning tires fills the air as they gather around fires, both to keep warm and make their voices heard. This mass movement, however, is not just a protest, it is a plea for a future that is increasingly slipping from their grasp. As one protester, Zinel Makona, stated, "We are here because the system has shut us out. We are qualified, we are ready to learn, but there is no place for us. Our futures are being blocked by a broken system. Refusal of applications, a system overwhelmed." At the heart of the issue is the sheer volume of applications being rejected. Despite achieving the necessary qualifications, hundreds of thousands of young South Africans find themselves without a place in university. The education system simply cannot accommodate the growing demand. With too few universities to support the country's rapidly expanding youth population, thousands are left stranded at the gates of higher education. The refusal of applications is particularly devastating for students from marginalized communities who see education as their only ticket to a better life. A record number of students have passed their matric exams, only to receive rejection letters from every institution they apply to. The limited spaces available are prioritized for those with the highest marks, leaving many students without options. For many, this is a crushing blow. Vuyo Dlamini, a prospective student, described his frustration. "I worked hard. I did everything they asked. But the universities are full, and now I'm stuck. It feels like they've slammed the door on our futures." The lack of additional universities. The root of the problem lies not just in the overwhelming number of applications, but in the lack of additional universities to accommodate the ever-growing student population. South Africa's existing universities are stretched beyond capacity, with many operating at full enrollment for years. Despite repeated promises from the government to expand access to higher education, no significant increase in university capacity has occurred. In rural areas and townships, the situation is even more dire. Students from these regions often have to compete with peers from more privileged urban backgrounds, where access to resources, better schools, and preparation give them an edge. Without the creation of new institutions or the expansion of existing ones, there is simply no room for everyone. Outside the University of Johannesburg, the frustration is palpable. Students sit on the pavement, some holding signs reading, "Education is our right," and "No future without us." Others chant slogans, their voices demanding change from a system that has long neglected them. One of the protest leaders, Thando Nkosi, explained the urgency. "We cannot wait any longer for new universities. We need more spaces, more opportunities now. This country is failing its youth by not investing in education. We are the future, but they're locking us out." A department in crisis. The Department of Higher Education has come under intense scrutiny for its failure to address the issue. Critics argue that the department has been too slow to act, despite years of warnings about the growing demand for university spaces. As universities continue to turn away prospective students, the department's inability to expand access to higher education is seen as a gross dereliction of duty. Students and activists alike accused the department of mismanagement and neglect. Funds that were meant for expanding university infrastructure have reportedly been tied up in bureaucratic red tape, and plans for new universities have been delayed repeatedly. Lerato Makais, a spokesperson for the protesting students at the University of Pretoria, expressed the sentiments shared by many. "This is not just about us, it's about the future of our country. The government keeps saying education is a priority, but where are the new universities? Where are the resources? We are here because we've been abandoned." Burning tires, a symbol of desperation. As the protests intensify, the sight of burning tires has become a potent symbol of the students' desperation. The thick, black smoke rising from these fires serves as a reminder of the future that is being consumed by the current crisis. The fires are not just for warmth, they are a way of showing that these young South Africans will not be silenced. Despite the rising tensions, the protesters remain resolute. They are demanding immediate action, the expansion of universities, an overhaul of the application process, and a commitment from the government to invest in the education of its youth. One protester, Sile Mabeso, summed up the feelings of many. "We don't want to be out here burning tires. We want to be in lecture halls, learning, building our future. But until they give us that chance, we will keep toying. We will keep fighting." The road ahead, a nation at a crossroads. As the crisis deepens, South Africa finds itself at a crossroads. The education system is straining under the weight of unmet demand, and the youth are growing increasingly disillusioned. If the government does not act quickly, the consequences could be devastating, not just for the students, but for the country as a whole. With unemployment rates soaring and economic inequality worsening, education remains the key to unlocking a better future for millions of young South Africans. But without sufficient resources and access to higher education, that future remains out of reach for many. The protests outside universities are a stark reminder that education is not just a privilege, it is a right. And until that right is guaranteed for all, the fires of dissent will continue to burn.